What's going on, everybody? Welcome into episode 52 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast on this Wednesday, February 12th, 2025. I'm your host, Zach Malamud. Before we get started, please subscribe below, follow all of my social accounts. Let's start things off in the NBA as the New York Knicks are in action tonight. A 7:30 start against the Atlanta Hawks. And let's look back to the Knicks' previous game last night where the Knicks won in Indiana. A 128-115 victory over the fourth place Pacers in the Eastern Conference. A big-time win, especially after the loss to the Celtics on Saturday. Knicks needed a big bounce back going into the back-to-back against the Pacers and the Hawks. And now you look at the Knicks in this one. Karl-Anthony Towns was the story. He had 40 on the night. Josh Hart, how about Josh Hart stepping up with 30 points in this one, had 10 rebounds along with 8 assists. And Karl-Anthony Towns, I mentioned him, 14 of 23 from the field, also had 12 rebounds. And the Knicks, with Jalen Brunson in foul trouble really early yesterday, only shot 4 for 11 on the day, only had 8 points, did have those 7 assists as well, though, had those 5 personal fouls, and the Knicks really needed to focus in on scoring without Brunson, and they definitely did that with Towns and Hart really stepping up. How about the bench as well? Landry Shamet had 11, Deuce McBride had 15, Campaign had 9, so everybody really stepping up for the Knicks in this one, and a great victory on the road for New York as they take down Indiana. So it really tells you that the rest of the Eastern Conference below Boston, Cleveland, and the Knicks is just, it's really between those top 3 teams. What's going to happen? The Knicks, you have to step up in those kind of games, though, in terms of when you're playing the Cavs or the Celtics. They have to find wins there, or have to try and find wins there, because it seems like it's Cleveland, then Boston, then the Knicks way below where those 2 teams are at the top. It's just, that's the reality right now. And the Knicks know that they are the 3rd best team in the conference, but they want to be number 2 or even number 1. So they got to figure out ways to beat those teams in Boston and Cleveland. Obviously, some more games coming up against those teams in the next couple of weeks. So obviously the Knicks will have their eyes on those games, but they get a big win on the road here. Take down Indiana 128-115 in Indiana. So that's a big win for them. And now let's move it to tonight. 7:30 start, like I mentioned, against the Atlanta Hawks. Atlanta is 26-28 on the year. Knicks are 35-18. And the Knicks come into this game as 8.5-point favorites. Total sitting at 241.5, a high one for this Knicks-Hawks bout. And when you look at this game, it's all about Trae Young back at the Garden. Once again, he is a game-time decision in this one, but once again, the bright lights are on. Trae Young, he gets to the Garden. What's going to happen kind of deal? And the Knicks really need to find a way to stop him. It's very important that they shut him down. OG Anunoby's a game-time decision tonight, and a lot of guys still out. Mitchell Robinson is out still and looking to get closer to his season debut, but not going to be there just yet. If I'm the Knicks, I'm holding OG Anunoby out till after the All-Star break. Don't need to risk it. You're playing the Hawks. You should handle business here. I know the Hawks won in the NBA Cup at the Garden earlier this season, but the Knicks should handle business on their home floor. If they don't, we got a bit of a problem here. And they're taking on an Atlanta Hawks team that's struggling in the middle of the pack in the Eastern Conference. Yes, I have a couple of good wins here and there, but this is a Hawks team that the Knicks should really control. And obviously they played them a couple of weeks ago, and the Knicks won 119-110 on January 20th. So when you look at it right now, Knicks should win tonight. And if they don't, we have a problem, but we'll see what happens. But make sure you tune in later as the Hawks go to the Garden. Trae Young back at MSG. 7:30 start tonight. Knicks are 8.5-point favorites. And let's finish things off today with a college basketball update. Let's move back to yesterday's games. Tuesday, as Auburn was in action, Alabama was in action, Florida was in action. All of the top 3 teams were in action yesterday, and all of those teams came out victorious. No monster upsets there in terms of Auburn, Alabama, and Florida. Auburn gets the 80-68 win over Vandy on the road. Bama goes to Texas and wins 103-80, 54 points in the second half. They put up 100 at the Moody Center. And then Florida, in a game that you really thought, all right, it's going to be a little close, a tough one for the Gators here. They handled business, and they were down at halftime 34-33, went on an insane run to start the second half, put up 48 points in the second half total, and win 81-68 against Mississippi State. So that's a tough one down in Starksville, and the Gators find a way to win that one as well on the road. Then it came to the upsets of the day, and a couple of ranked ones as number 15 Kentucky takes down number 5 Tennessee. Did it with Lamont Butler back in the lineup, but no Jackson Robinson in the lineup. Had a wrist injury, and Kentucky still found a way to beat Tennessee. They did it on the road earlier this season, and now they do it on their home floor at Rupp Arena. So a good upset for Kentucky, one of the weirder teams in terms of college basketball where, I mean, they'll lose a game that it's kind of a head scratcher. How did they lose that? And then they'll come back and beat the number 5 team in the country, the number 4 team in the country. That's just what they do, and that's Kentucky basketball right now. Michigan gets a monster win in the Big Ten. They take down Purdue. That one 75-73, and Michigan down at halftime as they were down by 2, and then they built that comeback, and Danny Wolf had 15 and a couple of free throws in the final seconds really seals the deal there. And number 7 Purdue goes down against number 20 Michigan. A couple more games and some big upsets in terms of ranked teams. Michigan State was supposed to handle business on their home floor, but Indiana comes in, gets the win 71-67. They knock off number 11 Michigan State. Now the Spartans sit at 10-3 in Big Ten play and had the ability to really get closer to teams like Purdue and Michigan, but now get their third loss in the Big Ten this season. Then you look at Arizona goes on the road, and Kansas State has become a very tough place to play, and Manhattan is not the easiest spot for away teams as number 13 Arizona knocked off by K-State, and K-State now 6 straight wins. They are rolling right now in the Big Ten, and they in the Big 12, excuse me, and sit with a 7-6 record on the year in Big 12 play. Final game in terms of upsets, UConn knocks off Creighton. And where you saw it in the first half that Creighton, all right, well, they came out strong. They're on their home floor. Omaha's a tough place to play, and they'll handle business here. UConn builds a monster comeback, and that one led by Liam McNeely. He had 36 points in this one. What a performance by the freshman for UConn. And after a loss to St. John's that really left UConn fans not knowing what they were getting from this season, all of a sudden they're back, and they were out of the rankings for the first time since the 2022-23 preseason. I think they might be heading back in sometime soon. I mean, they do have 7 losses, but I mean, they go on the road and knock off Creighton. Not many teams are able to do that, and it's been real difficult for a lot of opponents to do that. Creighton now falls to 18-7, 11-3 in Big East play, and UConn is 17-7 and 9-4 in Big East play. And that means St. John's, who plays tonight. Let's bring it over to Wednesday's games. And when you look at St. John's, they take on Villanova. Number 9 St. John's now as they move up into the top 10 for the first time since the 90s. And a 6 o'clock start as the Johnnies take on the Wildcats at Finneran Pavilion down in Philly. And when you look at St. John's in this game, 2.5-point favorites, probably expecting the Johnnies to win this one with how they've been playing against some of those other opponents. But I mean, they had a close game against Nova at the Garden in January, in early January, almost a month ago. And when you look at St. John's now, yes, they're playing a lot better, and 21-3 in overall and 12-1 in Big East play, but this is no easy game down in Villanova. So they got to figure things out, and I think the Johnnies should come out with a win, but you never know, as Villanova has knocked off UConn there at Finneran already this season. Just a couple more games, really not too many big ones. Duke's in action. They're taking on Cal, should handle business. 23.5-point favorites. Texas Tech is the number 12 team in the nation right now. They are 16.5-point favorites taking on Arizona State tonight. And then Missouri, the final game at 9 o'clock. They're taking on Oklahoma, who's coming off that loss to Tennessee on the weekend. And when you look at Missouri now, 21, they are ranked after that loss to A&M earlier this week. Now they are 9.5-point favorites tonight at Mizzou Arena. Should probably handle business here, but a lot of these games at home, so not going to be too tough for some of these teams in these big conferences, ACC, Big 12, and SEC. But St. John's Nova is the big game tonight. Make sure you tune into that one, 6 o'clock, as the Johnnies put that long win streak on the line and 12-1 in Big East play. They got a 2-game lead now in the Big East as they look for a regular season title for the first time in a long time in the Big East Conference. But that'll do it for episode 52 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast. Please subscribe below. I've been Zach Mellema. Thanks for watching, and talk to you all on Friday.